Hi, friends. This is Caroline from Carousel, and your energy is safe with me. So, I've been thinking about this video for days and days and days, and finally can do it. So, I'm excited to talk about this and curious where this is going because I just have the seed of this idea and it'll come through as we go. So, I've noticed a very common theme of a difficulty receiving. And I've seen this very commonly in most of my female clients. It's very common, the difficulty to receive. But in the last few days, in the last week, in the last month, I've come into contact with far more masculines that have a difficulty receiving, which really surprises me. And I'm not sure why I'm so shocked about it, but it just seems so surprising. And so I was thinking about this, like, why? What is this difficulty receiving? Why are we having such a difficult time receiving? And why is this such a common theme with almost all my clients, everyone I work with, almost everybody I give readings to, that I do alchemy work with, like everybody. Um, and so this is the thing. Receiving is part of the feminine. It's part of the divine feminine balance. If you can think about the separation, the polarity of energies, everything is one, but the way it manifests in the physical world is that there are polarities. So there's light and dark, there is winter and summer, there is masculine and feminine. And so everything unifies to create wholeness and unity. Everything can come together and complement each other. That's the beautiful thing about this idea of polarity, because it creates wholeness, it creates oneness, it creates love, it creates unity. But masculine energy has to do with giving, with putting out, with forward movement, and the feminine has to do with receiving. If you can even think about the masculine and feminine genitalia, that's literally what they're designed to do. One is to output, to give out, the other is to input and receive. And so, what I'm realizing is that this difficulty receiving has to do with our discomfort or our difficulty or our rejection of the feminine. It has to do with us rejecting the divine feminine aspects and that imbalance of the feminine. And so, this is where receiving is so important. I mean, there's so many things about it, but one of it is you cannot give sustainably, and you can also not give like willingly without also receiving. If we are constantly giving out, if we are constantly giving to others without receiving, and that can mean from others or that can mean receiving from ourselves. So that includes receiving moments of self care, of rest, of relaxation, receiving moments of self love from ourselves, of compassion, of whatever, or receiving from others as an energy exchange back and forth. But if we're not taking the time to receive from ourselves or others, we cannot sustainably give. And if we cannot sustainably give, we are no longer giving willingly. We are giving out of obligation. And to give out of obligation is not the same energy, not the same frequency, not the same intention as giving willingly and lovingly and compassionately. Those are two different things. So when we give out of obligation, when we are giving or doing or acting out of obligation, this is a fear-based mindset. This is a fear-based camp. Once again, the polarities, there is love and there is fear. Love really is the unity of things. Fear really is the separation of things. And so the idea of willingly giving, so not out of obligation, but because you want to. That's love based. You're doing it because you want to. You're doing it without expectation of receiving. You're doing it not because you're expecting something back, or not because you're expecting to put yourself in a different position in that person's eyes, or to change perspective, or to gain something. It's willingly, it's without expectation. To give obligatory, to give out of obligation, is to give because you feel you have to, because you're afraid you might miss something, or you will be thought of differently. There's a fear-based intention behind it. You're afraid of losing somebody or something. You're afraid of losing standing. You're afraid you won't be liked as much. You're afraid that someone will say something bad about you. You're afraid that this person will go away. You're afraid that whatever. But it's fear-based. And so to receive is to also connect to the idea that we have to shift into giving willingly. If you're giving something out of obligation, you're not really giving it because you want to or because you love to. And so that changes the frequency. It doesn't benefit anybody for you to help them because you feel like you have to and not because you want to. It doesn't benefit anybody. It doesn't benefit them or you, the recipient of whoever you're giving to. It doesn't benefit you to do something out of obligation so much that there's no joy or passion or goodness in your intention. And it doesn't benefit you to give out of obligation when you're drained, when you're beyond your limit, when you can't give anymore, but you're pushing yourself to do it out of obligation. That doesn't benefit you. There's no positives in that. And then on the other side, it doesn't benefit the person receiving if you're giving out of obligation, because you don't really want to anyways. The intention behind it isn't because I love you and I want to and I'm not expecting anything. There's usually a catch. There's usually an expectation. You're placing a responsibility or an assumption upon this giving, this gift, and it's not without condition. So it's just interesting because I'm seeing so many masculines and feminines unwilling to receive or having a difficult time receiving. And the first person that we have to learn to receive from is ourselves. That's the same with anything. I mean, we have to forgive ourselves before we can really forgive others, but it's easier to go from the outside in. So it's easier to receive maybe for some from the outer layers and then to receive from yourself. But your relationship with self is reflected in every relationship. So you can think of every relationship you have mirrors some aspect of your relationship with yourself inside. So if you cannot receive from others, you also are probably not receiving from yourself. Not probably, but like most definitely. There's things you're not receiving from yourself. And whether that's love, whether that's compassion or acceptance or forgiveness or rest or praise or whatever. So how do we shift into receiving? How do we shift into receiving from ourselves? That I'm going to leave up to you. That we will explore in more videos and more to come. But it's an interesting that I'm seeing. And so learning to receive from ourselves, starting to embody and embrace the idea of receiving, will also lead to a better balance of masculine, feminine energy within us. Will also lead to a better balance of giving. You can't give if you're not receiving. You can't give if you're empty. You can't give without condition. And you will feel better about giving. You will feel more empowered in your giving if you're doing it out of choice rather than out of obligation. It feels very disempowering to give something because you have to and not because you want to. And to also not be able to set boundaries on your giving because you feel like you have to do it. That comes from a very disempowered place. You're not empowered when you're giving something because you have to out of obligation, and not being able to set the boundaries. We're like, I need to draw the line here for me, for my rest, for my mental health, for my whatever, for my own protection, for me to preserve myself or my little self that's inside. So something to think about. So where are the aspects that you're having a hard time receiving? If you do have a difficult time receiving, do you have a difficult time receiving from yourself? Why is it so difficult to receive good things? Why is it so difficult to receive good things? And why are you willing to put yourself out to give more than maybe you can give, or maybe more than is like a healthy balance for you long term, or to give more than is sustainable for you? And if you're not willing to receive, how are you going to fill up? How are you going to continue to give sustainably? If you're not willing to receive, who is going to give to you? How are you making space for someone to give back to you? If your mantra is that I'm always giving and no one ever gives back to me, Are you really making space to receive? Are you really making space for someone to give back to? Or when people try to give something to you, do you, no, 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 it's okay. No, 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 I don't need it. Do you not receive and then complain that nobody gives back to you? And if that's the case, is it that no one gives back? Is it that you're overly giving, or is it that you don't make space for receiving? So it's just interesting to think about. It's something that I'm seeing more and more as we come into a better balance, as we're shifting more into the positive balance of the masculine and feminine. This giving receiving will become more balanced as well, and this will also affect and adjust the way we think of producing and production and value of production, and how we can sustainably produce and move forward forever. It's not that you're not supposed to give. It's not that you're only supposed to receive. Neither of those are sustainable. One hand washes the other, I guess is the expression. So especially to my masculines and to my feminines, if you're having a difficult time receiving, this is part of the rejection of the feminine, the rejection of the idea of rest and luxury. And also it ties into, for most of us, the idea of deservingness. It ties into a rejection of the idea that we deserve good or more, or that we deserve anything, maybe. It ties into the idea that we don't feel worthy of receiving. And that's a difficult, difficult thing. You are so worthy of receiving. And most of you are probably givers, especially if you're natural nurturers or empaths or intuitives. You want to give, you want to heal, you want to make others feel good. But if you're constantly doing that for others and making no space to receive, who can do that for you? You're not making space to do it for yourself. You're not allowing the people that love you to give to you, to receive from them. So who can make sure that you feel good? You're the only one that can do that. You're the only one that can open the doors to receiving. And this can be so many things. This can be receiving love. It can be receiving compliments. It can be receiving rest, receiving friendship, receiving joy. It can be receiving stuff. But more likely it's receiving like an energy back. Receiving gratitude, receiving gifts, receiving dinners, receiving friendship, receiving fun, receiving joy. So think about it. If you have a hard time receiving, what aspects of your life are difficult to receive? And are there other aspects of your life where it's easier to receive? And why is that? But you're the inner explorer. You're the expert in your life. No one else is going to know these answers for you. The rest of us can just help guide you back to yourself. So try receiving from yourself, receiving rest, receiving compliments, receiving acceptance and compassion and forgiveness from yourself and love, receiving nutrition, receiving taking care of your health. Those are all things of receiving, all receiving. So be well, my friends. Once again, my name is Caroline from Carousel. Your energy is safe with me. I have a weekly energy update for the base, heart, and crown members in the Carousel Divine online membership, so they get a weekly update. Those of you that sign up for the heart and crown get, readings with me, free readings, a couple questions here and there. So if it's something you're interested in, please check it out. There's more exclusive content on there. So once again, be well, my friends. I will be with you so soon.